Today, Keith Merker, the CEO of WeedMD, is in our spotlight. Merker isn't just one of Canada's top cannabis executives. The Mississauga native has also lived and worked all over the world, including China and Australia, where he was a dive instructor on the Great Barrier Reef. He once cycled across Canada living on only $5 a day. It was an 8,500-kilometer trip, and it took him 3 months. Merker also worked picking and selling gourmet wild mushrooms. He also hosted a radio show as Bug Teeth Keith, and he was part of a rock band in Beijing. Folks, we cannot make this stuff up.
Nothing?
Welcome back, everybody. On the show, we're with WeedMD CEO, Mr. Keith Merker. Keith, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Excellent.
You're looking well. You look good. You got a nice suit on, nice shirt. Look at this guy. Like,
yeah, thanks,
hey, like money in the bank?
There's no money in the bank. We're other than at WeedMD, where there's lots of money in the bank, and we're doing great things.
Yeah, you're sitting with a lot of cash, aren't you?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah, and you know, I think the companies that sit with lots of cash and continue to do so, opportunities will come when you least expect them.
Fair to say. Now, it's not that we're not deploying said capital, because we're building one of the greatest production platforms in the industry today, and of course that's not free.
No, but you don't want to spend it all, right? Like you got to take your time.
We've been making a name, I think, for WeedMD as one of the most responsible operators out there, from a operational standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. You can look through the statements, you can look at what we've built, and if you compare it across the industry with what other folks are sitting on and the amount of money they've spent to get there, the proof is in the pudding. You
know, it's funny you mentioned that, because as a qualitative commentator and quasi-analyst, I spend a lot of time reading sentiment. I'm a big sentiment fan, so that involves going on different venues to read sentiment. And it's my impression that you have a sort of beneath the blanket sort of hardcore fan base that really believes in your platform. But last year,
beneath the blanket.
Beneath the blanket. I think I just made up that term.
It's interesting.
I think you know where I'm getting at. But it looks like, if I look at the chart of last year, it looks like your stock didn't really receive the attention that it deserved. It kind of wallowed a little bit, along with some of the other juniors. And it's just now that it seems like WeedMD is getting the stature. It's getting it's getting a bid. It's getting some nice price action to it. What do you say? What do you see about what's happening with your stock right now, and about the recognition that you're receiving?
Yeah, well, it's been a long road. I mean, we've been very thin up top, and as a result of that, very focused, just by virtue of the bandwidth that we had at the table, on operations and building out what we're building. It's a tremendously complicated thing that we've done in building the facilities that we have up and running and getting them fully operational and growing the great WeedMD product that people know and love, those folks that are under the blanket that you're talking about. And so that's not an easy task. And it's now that we're having sort of, call it our coming out party, where we feel that we're probably the best kept secret in cannabis, and it's my duty now to make sure that that story goes told, because it's a great story. So I've got to hit the streets a little bit more and preach the gospel, and I think in doing so, now I'm happy to be here. Yeah. And in doing so, I think to generate the recognition for what we've achieved and the awareness amongst the investor community and beyond, of course, so that we can truly realize what it is that we've built, and so other folks can realize it as well.
So you have an outreach program right now? You're starting to reach more investors to get that message out, or is it just something that's...
It's the one-man show right now, but we're out there, and we've built out the team that I mentioned earlier was quite thin historically. We've built out a number of great teammates to build this business.
I know some of your associates at London, Ontario, of course, Pat Valenti, and there's a lot of people in there that are real supporters.
That's right, the London community, and to mention, I'd be remiss not to mention also the Elmer community, where we have our flagship operation, in Strathroy community, where we have the expansion site. But of course, I moved to London for this business just over a couple of years ago, with a hesitant wife who was 8 months pregnant at the time, and that's another story.
Was she under the blanket?
Jeez. Regardless of that, the communities... The communities that we operate in, both Strathroy, Elmer, and as well back in London, have all been super welcoming and great to work with. The population in Elmer is about 7,500 people. Yeah, small.
That's in Quebec, right? Elmer, Quebec.
No, it's just outside of London.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that.
Good they bring it up and clarify that. I think it's a pretty big formerly a tomato area, isn't it?
It's also primarily tobacco land. So we're actually in a former Imperial Tobacco building.
Right.
And Imperial Tobacco had a massive 1 million square foot facility across the road from our current site that they vacated back in 2007. And so they left a bit of a hole in the local economy, as you can imagine. So folks like us stepping into the breach and building the business that we've built.
Yeah, good.
Obviously, it's a very welcoming environment for us.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about BLOCKStrain Technologies. I know you're an early investor. I believe WeedMD put about $500,000 into that before the company went public. Can you tell us a little bit about the competitive advantage that it brings in terms of cataloging your genetics versus other LPs?
Yeah, the introduction was made early on, and we really liked what the guys there were doing from a technology standpoint and trying to push the needle on the technology side of the cannabis business. And not only that, but it provided a means by which we could validate our supply chain. And so WeedMD has a wide swath of genetics that we've provided across the Canadian industry and now internationally as well. And BLOCKStrain has provided us with a way to track and trace all those genetics. So we've locked down within the blockchain, which they use as the backbone of their infrastructure, all of the DNA footprints or fingerprints, sorry, of all of our strains. And so if there's ever any question as to or need to validate our products somewhere down the line, whether it's a dried product or a live plant, we can take it back to the source, validate it against the original DNA that we've locked with the BLOCKStrain platform, and thus provide validation.
So that's 100% immutable.
Correct.
So you can always protect your IP as you go along, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about terms like blockchain and all, because I still don't know anything about it, but I know there's some guys in London that are really big behind this BLOCKStrain company. Okay. And they keep telling me that, this is, anyway.
Yeah.
You know these guys.
We know them. We work with them. They're a great group of people.
So what about this announcement about the drug company that I go to, all the Shoppers Drug Mart?
Yeah.
So now you can go to their website. Is that right? And buy medical cannabis on their website that's supplied by you.
This is correct, as long as you are a medical patient and lodge your prescription with Shoppers Drug Mart. So this is, if you think of the Canadian distribution channels available today, you've got the medical platform, you got the recreational platform, and this is under the medical platform.
So just so I understand, so this is any store they have, like you're supplying that aspect to it, or is it just the local stores of?
So neither. So today, the first iteration of Shoppers rolling out a cannabis program is through basically a licensed facility that they have. So they've licensed essentially a distribution center. All the LPs who do business with Shoppers have shipped to Shoppers at this DC.
Okay.
And from there, the Shoppers patients who register with them online can then order, and it'll be shipped directly to them from that site.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And you're only one of, what, 5 LPs, 6 LPs that are?
I think it's about 7 today.
Is it 7? Okay.
And the nice thing for WeedMD is that we're one of the smaller ones. And for us, it was very meaningful from the standpoint that Shoppers has a larger reputation to uphold than anyone in the cannabis industry, to be quite honest.
Of course.
So they take their partners, as you can imagine, very seriously. So they came in and vetted everything we do, all of our policies and procedures and our products and processes, and they did so to the same degree Health Canada would. And so them coming out and giving us the good housekeeping stamp of approval as a partner with them obviously is very meaningful to WeedMD.
It's a great endorsement. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Now, we have a question from one of our viewers, and Nika
I didn't know we did
Domi.
questions.
We did,
Cool.
even with live guests.
Awesome.
Nika Domi asks, WeedMD, from what I remember, has been covering tax and shipping. Am I right? So are you still covering tax and shipping?
Is it Nika Domi? Is that a relation of Ty Domi? First of all?
I don't know.
Max, Ty?
Max?
You out there? Love you both. Nika, yes we are. So we're currently covering for all of our patients all of their excise tax as well as free shipping. And I think that that's been a feature which all of our patients have truly enjoyed. and sets us apart from many of our peers in the space.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I got to say it again. I remember having dinner with you and Bruce, and we had that wild sushi night.
We did.
And
wild sushi night.
Well,
it was a wild night.
We stayed above the covers.
Wild night, and you know, sake was flowing freely, I believe. Anyway, it was certainly in my area, and we had a lot of laughs. And you know, I don't know if it's because of my age and maybe because I smoked too much pot, but I never caught on to the marijuana thing like I should have. Like I say it with a little. I won't say I'm embarrassed by it, but hey, good for you. Good for you, because I was there and we were talking about raising some money, and I thought it was a lot of money, and I thought this is going to be difficult, and I was totally wrong. I was wrong.
You were right. That was back in the dark days.
3 years ago.
Like, late 2015 when you couldn't find 2 dimes to scrape together in the cannabis industry.
And I think you threw out a number like $5 million or something.
Yeah.
Was it 5 or 10? I think it was 5. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But you know what? Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we got to play golf.
With that we do.
Yeah.
But before Keith goes, I need to ask you one important question. This is something I definitely wanted to ask you about, and it has to do with the haiku with haiku. And I know perhaps you don't want without getting
open
too
book here. Go ahead.
Great. Without getting too in depth or just saying what you want to say, I wanted to ask you whether in retrospect, right, with the messy retail rollout in Canada, specifically in Ontario and BC. Was it kind of a little bit of a blessing in disguise that the merger fell through in certain ways without obviously giving whatever opinion that you want on the matter, and you received a little bit of a breakup fee as well, but it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise because of the way things have rolled out in terms of the retail strategy in Canada?
Listen, certainly at the time, it was sort of a difficult process to go through because we had, our eyes on that particular prize at that point in time. But in retrospect, I mean, we've driven on as WeedMD. It really didn't affect our core business, which was, strictly in the operations piece and cultivation and extraction and distribution. And it didn't slow us down a beat on those fronts. And that's the most important thing. And our business has flourished since operationally. And now as I tell the story and we're going to watch that stock price start to realize, what kind of numbers we're going to put up throughout 2019. Yeah, am I glad that we didn't dilute by 50%? Sure.
So 2 great companies. It did, it happened to work out, I guess, in this case. Now, as a follow-up question to that, do you still have a strategy to go to retail if and when it becomes available in terms of the lottery in Ontario that just happened? Any plans on partnering up or doing your own thing to get onto the retail side in Ontario? Yeah,
so there was a press release that came out about a month and change ago whereby WeedMD announced that we had partnered with a group called Pita Pit. And in conjunction with Pita Pit, who's a well-known and loved Canadian operator of obviously franchise operations and quick service restaurants.
And university students everywhere?
Correct. And the 2 of us created an entity called Pioneer Cannabis Co. Pioneer Cannabis is basically a services provider as well as a potential franchisor to aspiring retailers in the cannabis space. And it's a wonderful partnership in that Pita Pit brings their operational expertise on those fronts. They bring the network of landlords, the network of franchisees who typically want to own more than one store and operate more than one store. And WeedMD brings the cannabis piece, the supply, the compliance engine, the regulatory, and all that kind of good stuff. And together we've created this partnership, and we have discussions going on across the nation with potential partners.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. What was, just remind the viewers, what was the breakup fee on that? Can you say that?
Of course, it's all public. Yeah, it was $10 million less. There were some bankers kicking around who got a couple fees out of the thing.
But just to contrast how hard it was to get the $5 million 3 years ago versus a breakup fee for 10. You know what I mean? When it rains, it pours. And when there's a drought on, there's a drought on. And it's always good to remember that when things are great, maybe they're not always going to be great. So you should be I don't know what's the word, but embracing hang on to your cash
I'm a notoriously cheap guy.
We know.
And
No, I'm just kidding.
This is why the WeedMD Treasury has remained. This is why the company has raised less money than anyone else in the space.
And I would say, you know, your chairman's still Michael Kraft, obviously.
This is correct.
And he's, you know, he throws nickels around like they're manhole covers.
So
Anyway.
I'm guessing from that dialogue that you paid the sushi bill, you paid the sake bill.
No, they did. They listen. They're first-class people. They paid, but we did have a chance to drink a six-pack together.
We did.
Coming back from what could have been an auto.
That's another story.
I freaked
That's a
out.
whole episode.
That's a whole different story.
That's another story.
Keith, we
For
want to
another
thank
time.
you for coming on
Thank you.
board. I appreciate that. It was a great interview as always.
Yeah.